You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. So we're now going to be talking on the phone all about learning a language. Firstly, thank you very much for joining us. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself, that would be really good to start us off.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Olly Richards, and I'm from the UK. I grew up around Cambridge, and I grew up monolingually. So I just grew up listening to English and nothing else. And when I was about 19 years old, I was in London, and I got a job in a cafe in central London, and things started to change for me at that time, because there were lots of people that I was working with. My colleagues in the cafe were all from different countries. They were from Sweden, from Italy, from Japan, places like this. And I suddenly got turned on to the fact that there was a big, wide world out there that I wasn't really familiar with before, and that there were people with lots of really interesting backgrounds and cultures and things like that. And so I started to think to myself, well, maybe, how come they can all speak English, but I can't speak any of their languages? And so I began to learn my first foreign language, which was French. And then after that, I realized that I was quite good at it. And so I went on to learn other languages. And then in the subsequent 15 years or so, I've gone on to learn about 10 languages. Not all of which I speak fluently, but many of them I do. And so now what I do is I spend my time teaching other people how to learn languages quickly, which I do on my website and my podcast, which is I Will Teach You a Language. And right now what we're focusing on doing is promoting the importance of language learning around the UK, which is extremely important at this moment in time. And for that, I've teamed up with the language exchange app Hello Talk, which is helping us to get the message out there.
So if most people are speaking English, is there any need to go on to learn another language?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, because let's be honest, the lingua franca of the world is English. Whether you go on holiday to Thailand, or whether you have a job in a tech startup in London, whatever it may be, the people that you come into contact with from different countries, they speak English. So yeah, well, what's the need for us to learn other languages? Well, let's not forget that it wasn't always this way. If we wind the clock back to pre-war times, then the international language of diplomacy was French for hundreds of years. And, English gained in importance after the war. But if we look at what's happening now, the trend is reversing. So there are now more native speakers of Spanish and Mandarin than there are of English. And if there's one thing we know about the Chinese, is that they keep growing. And so if we, wind the clock forward 10, 20 years, it is very, very easy to see a situation in which English is not the most important language anymore. The Chinese economy has overtaken the US. The Spanish-speaking world is only going to become more important. And if we can't speak other languages, and we can't go out there and communicate and build relationships with the rest of the world, then what's going to happen to us?
So there seems to be a decline in learning a language at school. Is this something we need to be worried about or concerned about?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we agree that in the future the key to our success is going to be having these languages available to us to communicate and build relationships with others, then that all has to start at school. I mean, I learned my foreign languages as an adult, and it's an important part of my story, really, because I like to show people that it can be done. However, if we look to other countries where children speak other languages very well, for example, let's look at Scandinavia, for example, where it's commonplace for kids to emerge out of the school system speaking flawless English. And we look at why that happens. It is because throughout their childhood, both at school and culturally, where they watch English language TV and movies, which are not dubbed into their own language. The English stays, and they only have subtitles. It's at the beginning, while they are kids, that you have this opportunity to really instill a love and an ability in foreign languages in them. And so it's the fact that language learning is declining in the UK. It doesn't bode well for the future.
So I'd imagine some of the problems with learning a language are trying to juggle a life and a schedule and fitting it all in.
Yeah, I mean, for kids it's a different story because kids have time on their side. They have years and years in which to, a 6 or 8 year old kid has 10 years to go before they get to university, for example. So, for them it's a different story. They can afford to, for example, watch 10 years of TV and learn the slow way. But as adults, we don't have that luxury. And so, one of the most common complaints as an adult is, well, I just don't have time to do anything. But what's important to remember is that you only need a short amount of time every day in order to learn. If let's say, for example, your commute to work is 15 minutes to half an hour, well, there and back, that's almost an hour or more every day of potential language learning that you can do. You can't exercise in that time. You can't cook in that time. But you can learn languages. And so in a small amount of time, there's an awful lot that you can do to learn a foreign language. What's important is that you try to make it part of your lifestyle, and it's not just like a one-off thing that you do on a Monday, but you actually do it every day, and you surround yourself with the language, you immerse yourself in the language, and that's what, for most people, is going to make it absolutely possible to pick up another language.
And one of the things people have said to me in the past, although they've learned a language, when they've actually gone to that country, they learn it at such a better and quicker rate. Is there any way of doing that without travelling abroad, perhaps an easier way of doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first started learning languages, all you had was the books you could find in your local bookshop. But now we have the world in the palm of our hand, quite literally. And so, you can read a foreign newspaper on your phone. You can download foreign podcasts on your phone. You can use an app like the Hello Talk app, for example, to connect with native speakers of the language in their country and talk to them and practice languages together and things like that. So you can have a completely immersive experience in the foreign language at home if you choose to do it, and that's the key. You have to want to do it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you really have to want to learn a language, because one of the only times I've really learnt a language was at school, 1 hour a week, and that's probably really not enough. You really got to put that extra time in and really want to do it to successfully learn a language, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you'd like to find out more about how to learn a language as an adult, even if you're busy and you're kind of up against it, then you can go to my website, which is iwillteachyoualanguage.com. I also have a podcast, if you like audio, which is also called I Will Teach You a Language. And you can download the Hello Talk app as well, which gets you connected with other native speakers of the language, which you can find in the usual places on the App Store and in the Google Play Store.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us here at BRFM Bridge Radio on the Daniel Monday Night Community Show.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.